Off the Record with Michael Landsberg. Brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good friends. See you tonight.
I'm sitting with Mick Foley, author of Countdown to Lockdown, the latest of his books. I'm a big fan of your writing. I couldn't name all the titles. I don't think you could even do it now. You've written so many books.
I could if you have the time.
Okay, well, you know what? Or the interest, and I'm sure I have more time than I have interest in hearing your titles because there's so much more we could do with you. You left WWE last time under not the best circumstances. Yeah. Would you go back under the right circumstances?
You know, I went from saying when asked about, potential Hall of Fame nomination that, if it was important to my kids, I guess maybe I'd think about it. And then something magical happened. WWE went out of their way to mention my book on the air, on their show, which they had not done for anybody, which was seen as being an impossibility. And I went from having reservations to thinking I would do it in a second. So, yeah, I would, especially the Hall of Fame.
No one leaves Vince permanently, do they? I mean, even a guy like Bret Hart, who you thought in a million years would never go back. The truth is that you're with TNA now,
yes.
And I've heard you talking about it. TNA is number 2 to WWE,
right?
And will always probably be number 2 because of just the size of the company and their ambitions and all of that. Beyond that, but it seems like no matter who you are, no matter how you feel Vince has crapped on you, you'll go back for the right deal.
First of all, I love wrestling for TNA. It's been such a great source for so many people, whether they be younger wrestlers trying to get a break or guys like me who were able to live a pretty good normal lifestyle whilst with that being said, I mentioned in the book that nobody wants to get too far away from Vince's good graces because whether they realize it or not, they're all looking for that welcome back hug. And Vince he's a tremendous hugger.
But is it fair to say, though, that no matter how far you got away from Vince, no matter how much he detested you for something you did, if you could make him money, he would give you the hug?
Under most circumstances, yeah. I thought you were going to talk about me making the final decision. I looked at the decision to join TNA as like the cutting of the umbilical cord. Like
WWE.
I'd always felt connected to Vince and to the company. And in a weird way, Linda's candidacy for the Senate has made me feel connected again because when they attacked her and attacked the company, they were really attacking what I did for a living. When I say they, I mean, politicians and political parties. And it kind of reminded me of all the things that I liked about being there. I'd always felt like I had 90% positive feelings about WWE, 10% negative, even when I was there, and well before, there was some kind of truce made.
But that's the nature of being an employee anyway, right?
Yes.
It doesn't matter what company you work for. I mean, there's always going to be 10% where you go, I don't love the way they do that business, right? But Vince, I'm guessing it was more than 10%.
Maybe for a short time during my announcing experiences, but this book was written well before I had made any peace with WWE, yet it's far less negative towards WWE than my last book, which was a WWE book. So I dedicated that book to Vince because he had given me the freedom to write the book I wanted to without worrying about what I could and could not say.
Is there anyone that wouldn't go back to Vince, do you think?
There are certain people he won't take back.
I.e.?
It's not for me to. I'd rather not say, if that's all right. How long have
you worked with Ric Flair for?
It wouldn't be Rick. Rick actually called me on the 26th. I talked about this on the air because I was fortunate enough to have shared 2 really great moments with Rick just recently. We did an in-ring promo, as we call them in wrestling, where literally I knew one thing that Rick was going to say about me. He knew one thing I was going to say about him, and that was it. Like, it was just that creating, and it was that magic that to me has been missing from wrestling for years. You can't always create a magical moment, but by eliminating the scripts, you at least increase the potential of having one. And then a few weeks later, Rick and I followed it up with a match that was probably one of my all-time favorites.
Nice.
But I don't think Rick is out of good graces there. I mean, he did what he had to do. He wanted to remain a vital part of wrestling, and that is one of the opportunities that TNA provides. Just because somebody says, kid, you need to sit on the bench for a while. In baseball, you have other teams that can get you some swings. in wrestling, we're fortunate that TNA is providing people that opportunity.
Here comes the trash can. Well, that's definitely not the first time that Mick's been hit with a trash can, and I think not the last, because there's another one.
Biggest thing in the National Football League right now, the National Hockey League, in terms of safety, are concussions.
Yes.
And it seems like there's an evolution of what we know about concussions, but more than how to treat it is really the recognition of what is a concussion. You believe over the course of your career you've suffered from how many?
Dozens to up to 100.
Do you feel brain damaged?
I feel honestly, I feel like something hasn't been right for a long time. Like I'm just submerged underwater. Like things are just not clear. And, in talking to Bret Hart, who suffered long-term concussion damage, that's pretty consistent. But yeah, honestly, I have not felt sharp in a long time.
And isn't one of the problems with not feeling sharp for a long time is you forget what sharp is?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
You probably don't remember what it was like to feel with a healthy brain.
I believe you're correct.
Do you think that your sport, what you do, your profession, has changed?
It changed for the better as far as treating us? Yeah, I think the attitudes are changing. I've talked quite a bit with Chris Nowinski, who
I know Chris,
retired from wrestling after concussion suffered in football and wrestling. And he's done a lot of studying, and he tells me the attitudes have changed dramatically, especially when it comes to youth sports and high school sports,
right,
where it's no longer cool to stay in the game when you're hurt.
Right, but let's talk about wrestling,
Yes.
first of all. And by the way, Chris Nowinski, one of the things they do is posthumously, they examine people's brains,
Yes.
right? And they've had brains donated by hockey players, Keith Primo, I believe Bob Probert did as well, and from some wrestlers. In your book, you're one of those guys.
I
right?
was one of those guys who was going to donate a portion. I described it inaccurately as they were going to drill into my brain. Actually, Chris said, what we're going to do is take slices of your brain. And in talking to Chris the last time I was in Boston, he said, part of the brain is good. The whole thing's better. So, yeah, I have the comfort of knowing that when I die, some guy's going to come with a saw and take out my entire brain.
It would be fitting, given your career, if he did that slightly before you died, because you are the ultimate hardcore guy, right?
That would be hardcore, yeah.
Here's what I want to know. Physically, the concussions that you picked up, many of them were just from you doing routine things.
Yes.
For instance, with The Undertaker, you would go charging at The Undertaker,
Yeah.
and you would have a chair, and he would put his foot up, right?
With any number of opponents.
Okay.
I mean, that was a go-to move.
Right.
A lot of my go-to moves involved, my moves made suspending disbelief easy for fans because I was usually getting tagged.
So here's my question, and this, I think, will give us an answer to whether wrestling has changed. Would Vince allow you to do that exact same thing in WWE today?
No, if he had any idea that I was seeing stars, I think at the time he would have said not to do it. I will say this on Vince's behalf. I'll say two things. People can criticize Vince all they want. I'll probably join in on many of the criticisms. But I know that after Hell in a Cell in 1998, Vince came up, and I'll give you the impression too. And he said, "You have no idea how much I appreciate what you just did, but I never want to see anything like that again." And he talked about putting a governor on me, the same apparatus that will not allow a car to go faster than it should go. That's one occasion. On the second one in 2000, when I was at my absolute peak as far as popularity, when I told Vince that I was having some trouble, mobility-wise, he said, "Mick, you really need to lose some weight." And then when I said, "Vince, I'm driving 20 minutes past my house. Like, I don't even know where I live sometimes." And he said, "You've just had your last match." As it turned out, Stone Cold Steve Austin had a serious neck injury, and I hung on for a few more months. But I think the idea that Vince was willing to give up, not give up, willing to allow one of his top wrestlers to leave on his own terms without maximizing profit potential shows you that underneath, the bellicose billionaire, there's a pretty good heart.
More with Mick in a moment.
You want to do it?
The last UFC 121, there was this moment. Brock Lesnar is beaten by Cain Velasquez. Brock Lesnar is walking by the Undertaker, Mark Calloway, who's being interviewed, and Calloway, or I guess in his role as Undertaker, goes, "We're going to do this." Did you see that?
I did. Somebody sent me the link, and it was just surreal, because that was Mark Calloway, as far from the Undertaker as I've ever seen him publicly, doing an interview. I mean, he plays that character very close to that.
He did this show about 6 years ago, and I was riveted to every word out of his mouth. Highly intelligent guy.
Yes.
Not in any way what you'd expect. But what did you make of that? Was that a work?
I don't think so. And if it was, I'm not sure either of them fully acknowledges or even understood. I was not aware, and I'm still not aware of any bad blood between the two of them. I know when I saw Brock at WrestleMania, I didn't know Brock all that well at his last match. He kind of apologized to me, just, as being a longtime guy.
What was he apologizing to?
Almost for letting wrestlers like me down. And I said, Brock, I admire you for pursuing your dreams. I think the type of drive that goes into making someone among the best in the world at amateur wrestling, which is probably the most thankless sport in the collegiate ranks, is going to drive them to be really good as they can possibly be at professional wrestling. But at a certain point, it stops being a challenge. And I think Brock was a guy who needed to kind of, brave new frontiers, football, now UFC, and he can see every fight as a big challenge.
You watch UFC, right?
I do.
Are you shocked at its popularity?
I would not have predicted it would stay popular this long, because I really thought when their top fighters started losing regularly that it would hurt the popularity. And the very fact that they are able to headline pay-per-view events and do hundreds of thousands, and in some cases, 1 million buys, with guys who've lost 3 out of their last 5. And I'm not putting these guys down at all, but Randy Couture is a major draw, one of the biggest draws in that business, and he has lost.
Well, Chuck Liddell.
Chuck has been, lost several fights recently, and I hope Chuck doesn't fight anymore. He's been knocked out 4 or 5 out of the last 6 times, and I think you can see that the reflexes are a little slower, that I think that UFC, especially the ground and pound, takes a lot out of a guy's.
A 33-year-old Mick Foley.
Yes.
Would you have had any interest in that?
None whatsoever.
Who did you wrestle with in WWE that you think would have crossed over if that opportunity would have been available because of the competitive juices?
Yeah. Well, The Undertaker says that he would have been one of those guys. I've talked to a few others. Rob Van Dam said he would have gone that path. AJ Styles said he would have gone that path. And I after talking with you, maybe I'll pursue an opportunity. I had to do an article for an online magazine called Slate, which asked me to find that out, to go and talk to guys and see who would have been willing and who would have felt compelled. Me, I was always about the reaction.
Right.
And honestly, I don't want to hurt my reputation as a hardcore legend, but I don't want to hurt anybody when they're down. I'm more like Herman Munster in that wrestling episode where he just wants to make sure the guy's all right. I feel bad that I think I knocked out 2 people in my entire career. I felt so bad yesterday in New York City when I got up to take a picture and overturned the table and spilled pumpkin soup and coffee on the guy next to me.
Who did you knock out?
He would have been an unknown guy in Texas. I came down with the elbow, point of my elbow or the tricep, caught him in the chin and drove his head into the ground, and I felt bad for a long time. So I believe I only knocked out 1 person. 2, including myself.
I'm sure you comes multiple times in an evening, which we all scoff at and we all laugh at, and it's like Mick Foley, the guy would do anything. And if you want to hear more and read more about the things that he would do, it's called Countdown to Lockdown. A lot of guys write books, and you wonder, could they be any good? But sometimes you get to know an author, and you say, hey, I like his stuff, and you've written enough that we can say, we like your stuff. Countdown to Lockdown.
Thank you very much.
And when Mick returns for next question, here's a suggestion. Hey, Michael, enough Mick Foley. Let's get some Dude Love and Cactus Jack and maybe Mankind. Have a nice day. We'll do that when OTR returns.
Hey, brother, let me tell you something.
Michael's a really dirty fighter.
Ooh, yeah.
Is it show business? 100%. Is it entertainment? Of course it is.
Next question. That helps the ugly girls get prettier.
Time now for next question with this multiple personality celebrity. Respond in character. Hi, Mick Foley. How you doing?
How are you, Michael? Nice to see you today.
Jack Foley, what's going on?
Don't make me wrestle the British Bulldogs, please.
Cactus Jack, how are you?
Michael, I'm not having such a good day right now. I'm a little bit drowsy.
Dude Love.
Oh, Daddy, the dude is overjoyed to make your acquaintance.
Hey, Mankind. Great to see you.
Michael, I'm not having a very good day. Mommy!
That is really awesome. Where's Truth or Consequences, New Mexico?
Truth or Consequences used to be known as Hot Springs. I told that lie for so long, it became accepted as fact, and there's actually a picture of me in the trophy case at Hot Springs High School.
Really? Well, Truth or Consequences was a game show, right? And you've been on some game shows. 2001, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yes.
Right? You know what pissed me off? You wore a suit. And here you are wearing this garb. Did they tell you had to wear a suit?
No, they didn't. I don't know if you remember, but when I was with Ken Huckabee of the Blue Jays, I wore a suit that day. You invited me to be part of the panel.
So you wore a suit on this show.
And you guys were like so disappointed. Like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I didn't want to. I understood the magnitude of the show.
Okay, let's keep going. Which of the following is part of the island group called the Society Islands? A, Fiji. Oh, you know the answer because that was the $125,000 question.
Ken Davis was my expert.
You passed on it. You took the $125 and gave it to a great charity. Yes. You were on Family Feud recently, in fact. We polled 7 people and got the top 5 answers to this. Name an overrated wrestler. Hulk?
No. Let me think of somebody.
The other guy's buzzed in. He's gone Hulk. Our number 1 answer. You attended the Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert Restore Sanity and or Fear rally, right? First of all, which one should be restored?
Sanity.
Who's funnier, Colbert or Stewart?
Ooh, that's a toss.
Got to answer.
No, I'm on John's show.
So go with
I'm already booked, so let me go with Colbert, so maybe I can book later on.
Who's funnier, Leno or Conan?
Conan.
Conan or Kimmel?
Kimmel.
You've been on all of them. On your blog, you wrote that you'd be on the road for 41 to 42 days.
Yes.
That you would take 1 bag with 3 shirts, 3 socks, and 3 undies.
Yes.
Did you not pack any pants?
I bought 2 pairs of sweatpants at Sports Authority. Spilled pumpkin soup on them yesterday.
How often do you do laundry?
On this trip, once every 4 days, or I just leave behind and purchase.
How did you get the nickname the Bloomington Bulge when you were a kid?
You ever see my trousers? No, I didn't have a nickname of the Bloomington Bulge.
That's not true?
No.
Oh, really?
Never been called that.
Damn, Wikipedia keeps getting us.
No, the kids called me Moby Mick because of my size, but never the Bloomington Bulge.
Who's a more well-known resident of your hometown? I can't even pronounce it. How do you say it?
Setauket?
Right. You, Kevin James, or Twisted Sister lead singer Dee Snider?
Dee's an icon. I'd say Dee is the most recognizable. I've got the action figure. Kevin James has the $30 million syndication package.
What did you think of The Undertaker challenging Brock Lesnar to a fight ringside?
I would be big money in either venue.
Finally, in Countdown to Lockdown, you say you need to repackage Vince McMahon. What did you mean by that?
Vince wanted to repackage me. He didn't feel like I was connecting with the fans. Vince is a gut player. Most of the time his gut is right. I believe he was incorrect in that assertion.
A couple thousand shows, no more gentlemen than you. Countdown to Lockdown, Mick Foley. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.